What is going on, Clippers fans? Will's coughing. We're getting right into episode 146 of Clips and Dip. I am Chuck Mockler, joined by Will Updike and Adam Osmond. Oh, sorry, this is episode 147. What am I doing? We're all over the place. Very clearly the off season. We are Clips and Dip, part of the 213 Hoops Empire. You can find us on YouTube, youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. You can find us on Twitter @ClippersPod. Last week, we talked about some playoff grades for the Clippers. We did Russ and Ty Lue. We're going to do the rest of the starters and the bench today. But first, we got a couple birthday week boys here. Adam, Will, you're both a year older than the last time we've spoken. You've aged that quickly in a week. Adam, how are you feeling now that you are 24, I believe?
23, but I'll give it to you. We aged that quickly in a week because we've had no Clippers basketball for a week, basically. But it's good to be here. I appreciate you guys coming to my party the other night. We had a good time. It was fun.
Great time.
Check out the picture we took with Carl Tart. That's @ClippersPod on our Twitter account. Will, happy birthday to you. Are you 24 or 23? What are you going with?
Just turned 21. Yeah. It's crazy, man. Let me tell you.
Will has the same birthday as Ty Lue, which is fun. No word on the joint party yet.
Which is nearly the same birthday as Paul George.
That's true. And I think, do Zubats and I have the same birthday? Nope, not even close. I'm in August, he's in March. Not sure why I thought that. All right, let's get into these playoff grades. We're talking the starters, which was kind of an amalgamation of a couple guys, but I think we should probably start with Kawhi Leonard. For those of you who forgot, Kawhi Leonard only played in 2 games. He averaged 34 points, 6.5 boards, 6 assists, 2 steals, with splits of 54% from the floor, 60% from 3, 88% from the free throw line. Half of this production on a torn meniscus, mind you. Elite defense, finished with a -3.5 net rating. What is our Kawhi Leonard grade? I was almost thinking incomplete, but he played so well in those 2 games. This is kind of a weird one, right? Birthday boy number 2, what are you thinking? That's Adam, for those of you who are not watching the podcast on YouTube.
The guy had 31 on a torn meniscus and ripped the ball away from Kevin Durant in game 2 and went the other way for a dunk. So I have to give Kawhi Leonard an A+. His defense was on point. He ended up, guys, with shooting splits in those 2 games. And I was concerned about a fall off here of 55% from the field, 60% from the outside, average 35. And dare I say, I think a lot of it was sustainable had he stayed healthy. Once again, he just continues to raise his level from regular season to the postseason, regardless of how amazing he was in the regular season, which I thought he wouldn't be able to keep up, and he surpassed it in the playoffs in a mere 2 games, unfortunately. But hopefully this is not the best of Kawhi Leonard, and once again, he comes back from an injury stronger and better than ever.
Will, what did you...
Or no, I'm 2, 1.
Yeah, you're a birthday boy 2. Will's birthday boy 1.
I'd have to go A. Yeah, I don't know how there's anything else.
Like a respectful incomplete was what I was thinking, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, what we saw though was pretty. It was pretty damn complete. Yeah, I mean, it's just unfortunate for it to end this way. I don't know. I don't know how else to say it, but I don't know how it could be anything less than an A. I think that, even if Paul George, as we thought, wouldn't be good to go for the entirety of the first round, I mean, I think Kawhi still is enough, maybe, for the Clippers to get that done in round 1.
Yeah, I think if a couple more guys play better, which we'll talk about in the next segment, like it's totally doable that the Clippers get by the Suns with just Kawhi Leonard.
And I don't see his minutes in here, but he was playing some absurd stretches too. So yeah, it'd have to be an A. I don't know how it could be anything.
Yeah, 42 and 39 minutes. So he was at playoff minutes load. Someone on Reddit pointed out, because they hate Joel Embiid, I'm assuming, Kawhi had 24 field goals made in 2 games in 80 minutes. Joel Embiid has 22 field goals made in 4 games in 134 minutes, which is pretty crazy to think about.
I almost want to give him the Will Updike P for perfect. That's his grade.
He gets
think
the
that's
double.
fair.
He gets the double P.
Okay, let's. I don't think anyone ever wants the double P. So the net rating is something we're going to talk about because he was minus 3.5, but we're going to see a trend in this first section with some of these starters, right? So the next one is Eric Gordon, the roundest head in basketball. He averaged 10 points, 1 board, 2.6 assists, 41% shooting from the floor, 34% from 3 on just under 6 attempts per game. Okay-ish defense, minus 6.8 net rating. Adam, Eric Gordon's playoff grade in your eyes?
I'm going to give him a C plus. He had
think
a
that's
really
fair.
good game 1 with his 19 points, went 3 of 7 from distance, 7 of 14 from the field, but he just kind of tailed off after that. He ended up shooting just 41% from the field, under 35% from the outside. And I'm not going to be too harsh on him, and I'm going to say this for a lot of guys. They didn't bring him in with the expectations of he needs to get 20 per game in the playoffs for the Clippers to win, but I think they needed a little bit more than the 10 per game that he ended up averaging in the 5 games just due to the circumstances.
And
However,
the shooting from deep, right? Like 34%, you're like, it's okay-ish, but I think you're right. You know,
and he
who
is
are we to
someone
want more?
who could have had, I guess game 1 was maybe the Eric Gordon game. You know, he came up big down the stretch. It wasn't just Russ. It wasn't just Kawhi. His 19 were a little bit unexpected. But I think if he got one more of those in the next 4 games, maybe there would have been 5 games. Maybe there would have been
True.
one
Yeah.
more game to play. Still C plus, not bad.
Will, are you on the C train for your favorite Clippers bench player?
Yeah, I might have to go C minus. And this is always for me because it's kind of based on my expectations, and I would say he underachieved my expectations, not like drastically so. But I do have to say, in his defense, he was put into a really weird role. Like, he is, he's a role player, like truly a role player.
Right.
And I think that I think that not having a lot of certainty in that, and certainly once Kawhi went down and that was removed, and you had just Russ sort of, being forced to run the show for better or for worse, whatever it was, what it was, it's over now. I don't know that was necessarily like the best environment for him to thrive in offensively.
Yeah.
Defensively, yeah, I mean, like a little underwhelming, I think, overall. But he's an interesting one to me because did you get enough of a sample size, through how many games did he play? 18 games, 15 games or whatever in the regular season?
Yeah.
Did you get enough of a sample size to make a decision on next year's deal?
Which is weird.
I did.
Not fully guaranteed for Gordon. So, like, I say go for it. Make him the backup point guard or something. Like, it seems like he wants to handle the ball a little bit more. And then we got Russ, which obviously changes things. So, like,
I think that what he showed was enough. So maybe C minus is being a little bit.
I think C is very fair because your guys' average for him is a C, which I think, like, it's not bad. Adam, what are you thinking next year for the basketball headed EJ?
It depends if they're able to bring back Russ or not. If they can, I would say he's less of a need because there's Norman Powell, because there's Terence Mann, because you're trying to get more minutes for Bones Highland. It's not that I think he had a bad stint back with the Clippers. I just don't think it was overwhelmingly positive to the point where you have to bring him back because he's turning – is he going to be 35 next season? We likely have seen the best of Eric Gordon in his career at this point. Again, not having that other, above his head type of playoff game where he shows up in a big way and just carries you for a quarter. I'm not sure – smash Gordon. I'm not sure I'd bring him back, but that is a really good trade chip because he can be another expiring contract for the Clippers should they want to go that route with him.
He will turn 35 on Christmas of this year.
Well, never mind. You got to bring back baby Jesus.
You can't short him on these contracts. I would just go C2 for EJ. All right. Ivica Zubac. 9 points. I know. 9.6 boards, 56% from the floor, which is 7% worse than his regular season field goal percentage, minus 9.2 net rating. I have a note in here. Was he the most disappointing Clipper of this postseason? And we love Zoo.
More so than the next guy we're going to talk about?
No, because he doesn't count because everyone already hates him. Person who played more games, I guess.
I agree with that.
He might have been. Like, I was hoping we called him top 10 on this podcast. I was hoping he was gonna go at 8 and a little harder. Yeah, Doo-Doo Zoo is a very fair name right now. He did not have a good playoffs. And is that on, missing PG is big, but I think all Clippers fans wanted more from Zoo in this postseason. Will, your thoughts other than saying Doo-Doo Zoo over and over?
Look, I mean, yeah, this for me was a D. This for me was a
I'd go fully.
And it's not an indictment on his season as a whole or necessarily where he is as a player. I mean, for God's sakes, he almost averaged a double-double, which we've been begging Zoo to do for how many years now? He's a player who has made incremental improvements. I was just severely underwhelmed by what he was able to provide in this postseason. And there were times where I thought, we've talked about the hands a lot. I just thought that offensively, he was a liability in a way that even as good as he is defensively, it really limited what the Clippers were able to do.
Especially with Ty's outlook for this team.
Yeah, I think so. And he's obviously the better defensive player, but I think that Mason had some highlights that'll probably burn a little bit brighter in Clippers fans' memories over this offseason. And I'm not in any way suggesting that he should get the starting job over him or anything, but
right.
This was a regression to me. Like this was Zoo a la 2019, like when we weren't sure what his playoff utility would be. And the matchup was tough. I didn't think that he was always able to take advantage of some of the mismatches and stuff that he got. I thought that this was a little bit of a rough Zoo one. And overall, I thought it was kind of punctuated by stuff that we saw all regular season, which was he's a very easy guy to read when things aren't going his way. Like the body language isn't great. The focus isn't great. I just thought we saw a continuation of some of that stuff. And I got to be honest, there are some questions about Zoo's drive. Look, man, I hate to say this, but like there is like a thing about the mentality of this team that isn't always, clearly by process and from what we've seen, like that isn't always their game on the line to win. It's not, we're not running out 5 Jimmy Butlers out there and like scratching our head as to why we're losing. And I think that that's something that I see Zoo as a long-term thing, but that is like one of those issues that needs to be addressed. And I think that Zoo, if we have to ask ourselves some really hard questions, I think, this offseason, right? I mean, we can't just trot out the same thing and expect a different result, expect Kawhi and Paul George to play, 55 games. And I think Zoo, despite this playoff performance, is one of the more attractive pieces in a trade in terms of salary, value, what he provides.
Durability.
So I'm not saying like that is for sure what should happen. I'm not a knee-jerk guy on one bad postseason performance through only 5 games, but like, man, Zoo is one of those tough questions I think you have to ask yourself if you're the front office, if you're the coaching staff for this team. I really do.
I still feel like in game 1, he was pretty good. The first half of game 5, he was very good, but then Plumlee took over the second half, obviously, and down the stretch and got rewarded with more minutes. It's not that Zoo was terrible.
No, not at all.
The narrative around him from Clipper Nation has been what a bargain his contract was. Instead of playing above that in this playoff series, I'd say he played at that. He got 9-9.
I love
that.
That's a great way to put it, Adam.
Like Will said, he was almost at 10-10 for the series in less than, I think, 25 minutes per game. That's not awful. Ayton was at 16-11 with almost 10 more minutes per game out there. He
Right.
didn't get destroyed, but he didn't raise his level of play and make you go, look what a steal Ivica Zubac is. Look at how much should be on his plate because he's capable of doing this when needed to step into a bigger role. He just didn't do that. We were waiting for him to take that next step. This was a really big opportunity for him. I wouldn't go back and say it was 2019 against the Warriors or anything like that. But
all right, that was dramatic. Fine.
no, given the expectations that are on him now, it kind of makes sense in some ways. So I was disappointed in his performance, and I'm going to go D as well.
Yep, straight D's for Ivica Zubac. Now we are going to talk. I don't know if we should talk this one now, but it is the next order on the rundown. Marcus Morris. He played 3 games. He averaged 8 points, 4 boards, 0 assists, 34% from the floor, 16% from 3 on 4 attempts per game, minus 13.7 net rating, which I believe was the worst on the whole team for the playoffs. F minus. See me after class. It was horrible. Like, I don't know.
This is like grounds for expulsion. I feel like it's not even a grade. You're getting a letter from the dean being like, "Hey, we know you plagiarized this,
and you still got an F. You plagiarized a bad paper, and you got an F.
We're not even going to give you an F. That's too high of a grade."
He didn't get paddled like in Dazed and Confused or anything like that.
Well,
his game 5 in the first half was pretty impressive. He came out, gave great effort. I think he
scored 10
points
in the first half, and then he finished with 12 for the rest of the game.
I don't think he played a ton in the second half, but there may have been a reason for that. I'm going to go D-. It's relative to expectations, and he still is getting a D- for me.
What's the difference between a D- and an F, Adam?
An apple.
Go F. Say F.
The first half against the Suns in game 5. That's the difference for me.
Adam loves 51%, but he won't give it out as a grade. Makes you think. Nick Batum took Morris's place for a hot sec. Didn't really like it because he couldn't get into a rhythm. Averaged 4, 2, and 1. 42% from the floor. 35% from 3 on just 3 attempts per game. Minus 5.6 net rating. The defense was really the bright spot for Nick Batum, but I think he might be in C- range for me. He was missing some shots.
I was thinking C-. He had the great ending in game 5 that gave them an opportunity where he finally started to knock down everything from the outside. But overall, they needed more from him offensively with the guys who were out. Defensively, still more than solid, was a plus on that end, guarded Kevin Durant some, roamed around. I'm starting to agree that he may have lost half a step this season from where he was
I think I'm with
2021. That. But he still is very good. And like Rocco, if you surround Nicolas Batum still with good defenders next to him, that elevates his defense too.
Totally.
So, it takes away some of his weaknesses or the holes in his game, just like with Rocco. Yeah, he's not the quickest when it comes to playing one-on-one and staying in front of a guy, but he makes up for it with his quick hands. And if other good defenders are around him, he can help be a collective team defender out there. And that's the area or territory that Batum, I think, is heading towards as he's getting older. But I still see him as very valuable for this team, especially in limited minutes. You can't expect him, I think, anymore to play 35 to 40 minutes in playoff games. But if you're giving him 20 to 25, I think he could still be an elite defender in shorter stints at times.
Well, this is part of the conversation with the Clippers, right? Is our power forward rotation outside of Kawhi and PG is old and quasi busted for the most part. But Will, your thoughts on Batum?
This pains me to say. This is a C- to D performance for me. He had some great highlights defensively, still there. Such a glue guy, can lift so many lineups. I'm just at the point right now where with like the 3-point shooting, it was so great at points during the season. It is a little inconsistent. I don't think this is a $12 million a year guy anymore. And like I said, that really pains me to say, but how much money do you have tied up between just him and Robert Covington? I mean, you're talking like 26, 28 mil there. I mean, that's
Oh, yeah.
that's a lot of money. You add in Mook into that, and you're well into $40+ million. And
For
those are
old wing,
guys.
yeah.
Those are three guys that like maybe one of the three deserves to be in a championship level playoff rotation. And we're talking about those minutes shrinking and shrinking. I love Nick Batum. I have been
Battalion, yeah, who
I have been
doesn't?
a ride or die for Nick Batum since day
Lily
one.
Batum rules too, whole
Since
family.
before day one on this, but 12 million a year for this, I just like with the new tax laws and everything, like we just can't do it. I'm sorry, we can't do it.
I don't think 12 million is too much for what he gave this season. If he can reproduce this, he still shot almost 40% from the outside. It was just so up and down. And
Oh,
really,
yeah.
Clipper Nation paid attention to this. If you look at his final numbers on the season, they don't look necessarily as bad as his overall performance was on a night-to-night basis with just how streaky he was. I think him being the starter, though, or being in that range, I'm not sure that works anymore. First of all, he doesn't want to. Second of all, I don't think he can play 30 minutes per night during the regular season. And you need an upgrade in athleticism, and that's the most glaring hole at the 4 spot. I would love Nicolas Batum, even still for 12 million, coming off the bench and giving you 15 to 20 minutes a night. I still think he could help solidify some rotations where you do have more offensive focused players on the floor next to him, where he can make up for that and do some of the little things out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much dependent on, it's like the same thing I was talking about with Zoo. Is like it's very much dependent on what direction this team decides they want to head in, and I do think that Nick Batum can be a part of that future, but then some significant pieces need to move around him because
there's something really fair though to your point of those contracts. They're starting to become worth more based on themselves being expiring deals than they are for their play on the court. It's starting to get into that territory for all three of the forwards with the Clippers.
It's very true. Speaking of a guy who's not really in that category, but was around Batum on the floor, Norm Powell. Pretty okay series. 22 points a game, 3 boards, 2 assists, 47% from the floor, 40% from 3 on 6 attempts per game. Averaged the second most free throw attempts on the team, just behind Kawhi, and actually shot 2 more per game in the playoffs than the regular season, which is something I was a little bit worried about. But, we got rewarded on that. He kind of gave us everything we needed. Like, given the situation, I might give Norm like a B+. B.
A.
Fair. I'm not mad at it.
We kind of had to live and die by Norm, and I'm not saying that
we
that's
needed
the way
those fouls.
and I'm not even saying that that's the way that this team should be built. Like that's the way that they run, but so much was put on his shoulders. And I think for a guy, a guy who comes off the bench and walks into 20, I don't know what more he really could have given. Yes, he has his limitations and stuff. But like I said, some of these grades for me are based on my expectations. And Norm to me, was everything as billed and some more. And I think that, could he have stayed on a heater or given us another crazy game, if there was 2 Norm games, say in this, it at least goes to 6. So for me, it'd have to be an A, honestly.
Fair. Adam?
I'm going to shockingly go B, only because while he did, I know this is going to be crazy, guys. While he did get an efficient 20 per game, over 21 points, efficient from the outside, it was really 2 games that were heavily weighted into those numbers and his final stat line. Because 3 of them, he got, 14 points or less? He had 14 points in 2 games and 12 points in another game. And I think if you just had more consistency across the board with him of getting closer to 20 per game in each of them instead of having the wild 42-point game and just,
Right.
I know I'm nitpicking a little bit here, but
guy scores 42 points. Adam's upset about it.
Look, they're not all created equal every 40-point game. And they lost anyways. No, he was still awesome at times. I just wanted to see a little bit more consistency with Norm. So I'm going B. And he is
All right.
capable of doing just that, of giving you 20 in every game.
Yep.
So, but I love Norm Powell.
He supposedly loves Norm Powell despite giving him a B. So we did the hodgepodge of starters. All of them had minus net ratings. Coming up, we're going to be talking the bench playoff grades. Not too much.
Does anyone have a positive net rating if you lose a series in 5 games?
Every single bench player does, which we'll get into, which is super weird. Coming up, we got ads. They're going to be a little bit loud for some people. If that's your case, go ahead and turn it down. Bench playoff grades coming up after these ads in 3, 2, 1.
All right, so we're back here at Clips and Dip, and we're going to dig into the playoff grades for the bench players. Let's start with Terence, the guy who I think everyone wanted to see more of. Kick it over to you, Adam. What's your grade for Terence Mann?
I'm going to give him...
You said D?
No, I didn't say D, but I'm thinking about D. No, I'm going to go with a C grade. What? I'm going to go with the C.
C?
I thought he was okay, but he didn't have one game where he scored more than 13 points, and they needed more.
Not his thing, though.
And if Terence Mann could go out there and get 39 like he did against the Utah Jazz, I'm just looking for a few games here and there where he gets 39. Close to 20 points. That's all. I don't think
here's the issue with that.
Too high of a
here's
standard.
The issue with that. He played 3 more minutes per game in a series without Kawhi and Paul George than he did in the regular season. He was it's
this
insane.
Is why though I said going in he's got to average 15. Why? Not because I think he's not a very good player, because that'll keep him on the floor. If he's doing more offensively, Coach Lou won't go away from him.
But that's what's so frustrating. He was like, 57% from the floor, 47% from 3 on 4 attempts a game, plus 3.8 net rating. Like, I think it's more on Ty Lue. I don't know, man. I got to give him, I guess, a B. Like, he, I don't know. If you're plus rated in a series you lose in 5 and you shoot 47% on more than like 2 attempts a game, you're affecting the game positively. Will, are you giving him an F?
F. No, so this one's a little bit hard for me because I still feel like it's a little bit of an incomplete. Like, what does this series look like if we actually get what we want? Like, if we actually see more Terence Mann, if he actually has a role that's semi-defined, not even, that he has to be the starting point guard. I know that that's like way too far out of the realm of possibility now. But there's so many questions that I have about he becomes another guy to me. That's like another difficult question. And I think like absolutely the Clippers should lean into him and keep him and develop him. But at the same time, if that's not there, you got people chomping at the bit for this guy. Like maybe it's time to move on. And
he might want to move on. I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, if I was Terence Mann, I would. But I'm gonna go A, but it's like with a question mark because I still feel like I just still feel like we
curious Canadian.
Yeah, we haven't seen. I don't feel as though we've seen the full potential of Terence yet. And I thought,
Terence.
Yeah, I thought, and we've talked about this before, that maybe he had achieved his ceiling, and I don't think that that's true. I think that maybe he's hit the ceiling that he's ever going to get to with this team. But that to me like begs more questions of, so then what is the plan for roster construction sans Terence? Or, how are you going to only utilize this player in this very limited and honestly like a super inconsistent
undefined role?
Yeah.
No, that's very fair. All right. Mason Plumlee.
Oh, and we didn't talk can we talk for 1 second? I know we gotta speed these up, but can we talk about the Terence Mann LMFAO about the front that was tweeted out shortly after?
That was supposedly about the Manchester United soccer game that was happening at the time, but I don't know if I totally buy that.
Was there not a game happening at that time?
I don't know. I just
did he have to be like, no, I'm watching a replay. What are you guys doing?
I just think the timing of it was like, come on, dude. Like, minutes after they put out these quotes about how Terence was used well, you tweet out LMFAO. Maybe he just likes the band. I don't know.
Do you think he was on Twitter, though, actively looking at those quotes? Because he doesn't seem to be that active that often on Twitter.
You don't think his agent or somebody sent him those quotes? If I knew Terence Mann and I saw that quote, I would immediately be like, "Yo, did you see this?"
Dude, you see these quotes?
It's possible, but I'm going to take him at his word.
All right. Mason Plumlee, part of a fun run to close the end there. 8-7-2, 87% from the floor, plus 2.6 net rating. I got to give Mason an A. He did exactly what we needed him to do, right? Like, he earned some extra burn because he was playing well offensively. B, sure. But, I think he exceeded expectations.
The dribbling is reckless. The man is reckless sometimes on the court.
Totally agree.
Was Game 5 his first double-double in 6 years or 8 years in the playoff? Was it since he played the Clippers in 2016 with Portland?
It might have been.
Because he reached, we talk about flip the switch all the time. When the going got tough, Mason Plumlee went playoff Plumlee. He looked amazing in that second half of Game 5. That play he had where he had the steal and took it coast to coast the other way, but finishing with 20 and 10 and keeping Zoo off the floor when he was having a pretty good first half, I was impressed. I'll go with a B+ overall for Plumlee.
All right. Bones Highland, not afraid to shoot, but they weren't exactly going in. 8-1-1, 34% from the floor, 25% from three, plus 3.2 net rating. I might go C.
C?
I might go C. He was 25% from three. That's
CD's
really
nuts.
What are you going to give him, an A? You're going to give him an A for going 25% from three?
I think B. B-.
He shot 25% from three. It's terrible.
He's 22.
I don't know.
What?
I think if we're going off of, which obviously there's no real rubric here. There's no real standard.
That's a good point.
If we're going to playoff performance versus expectation, this would have to be a high B to an A for me. I'm serious. And I know that sure, the numbers aren't great. We knew that he would struggle around the rim. The shooting from three, obviously a disappointment from what he's done earlier in his career. But he's another exciting possibility that really gave some juice and some life to this team. And and who knows how this looks if we don't have both Kawhi and Paul George down. But I didn't really see him touching the floor much in this playoff series. And there were times where I thought that he was great. He's a huge part of the reason I think that whole bench flash mob, whatever it was, a flash in the pan, worked.
That's a great point. All right, I guess I'll raise it to a C from me.
If the Suns don't get 46 free throws attempted in Game 3, we're talking about Bones Highland winning the Clippers a playoff game. That was his fourth quarter.
And if my mom got hit by a bus tomorrow, she'd die. What are we talking about?
I'm just saying it wasn't on him that they got 46 free throws. He was amazing. He had 20 points and almost won them a game. And his defense was good throughout the entire series, even though his shot was up and down.
That's true, too. That's a great point as well. Are you going A, Adam?
I'm going B. Having been that excited, I'm still going B.
Yeah, I'm in the B+ camp.
Friendly grades. All right, Robert Covington played 2 games. Did not score. He was bad.
D.
He had a steal and an assist. I'm going a D-. Yeah, and I love Rocco, but it's not there right now.
I'll go C. He just didn't play enough. That's an incomplete, basically. He didn't play much at all.
That's fair.
I'll give myself an F for thinking he would have played more in the playoffs after everything we saw.
Oh, that's on you. Yeah. That's fully on you.
51% right here, guys.
That's that teacher evaluation right there coming in clutch. All right, that wraps up the playoff grades. Pretty average playoffs for the Clippers, missing their 2 stars. Coming up, we have a final. We're doing a throwback. We're doing a Love, Marry, Quarantine for the birthday boys coming up after this ad break. Go ahead and turn it down if the ads have been loud for you. Some people have had that experience. Ad break, and then a fun game coming up in 3, 2, 1.
Clips and Dip, episode 147 here. I'm Adam Oslin. We got Chuck Mockler and Will Updike. Get to us on Twitter @ClippersPod, @ClippersPodcast is where you can watch us on YouTube now. it's pretty cool. Chuck, what the hell is this game we're doing?
Love, Marry, Quarantine. For the old listeners of Locked On Clippers, this was something Will and I used to do every Friday. We changed it from Love, Marry, Kill because of the pandemic. So in these options, you guys are going to pick something you love, something you're going to marry, and something you're going to get the heck away from you, as Will used to say. This category is gifts you two would get from the Clippers players for your birthday. We have Russ gives William a Kiss the Cook apron, but it's got Russ's face on it. For his birthday, Adam receives a pair of custom Star Wars themed sneakers from Zoo, who does like Star Wars and wears custom sneakers. However, they are in Zoo's size. The final option, to show their appreciation for the wonderful coverage you two provide the Clippers, the organization lets you practice with the team, but your only duties are stop the guys from trying to dunk. Adam, which of these are you loving, marrying, and quarantining? Go.
I'm going to say, what was the first one?
The first one was
It's in the outline.
Russell Westbrook gives William a Kiss the Cook apron, but it has Russell Westbrook's face on it.
So I love that Russ is giving Will a Kiss the Cook apron.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
It's funny.
I love that. I will say I'll marry the Star Wars shoes, but if they have anything to do with the 1 through 3 trilogy or the 7 through 9, we're getting a divorce.
Okay, whatever.
Look, I'm a guy who watches the despecialized editions of the old Star Wars movies.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that is.
There's
no special effects.
Did not fucking shoot first. That's what that means.
All right, we're getting off the rails. So you don't want to practice with the Clippers, is what you're saying.
I'm quarantining that. Well, I do, but not if I have to stop guys from dunking on me.
Okay. If you don't believe in yourself, that's fine. Will, which are you loving, marrying, and quarantining?
I am loving Adam is at the Clippers practice to stop guys from dunking, and I'm just hanging out.
You're doing the Kawhi thing where you're like, no cameras. No, get them out.
You're just like the host at the And1 mixtape tour.
Yeah. Oh, baby.
The professor.
Adam's just a bloody pulp under the rim.
So I'm loving that. I'm going to go ahead and marry the Kiss the Cook apron. I'm going to quarantine these shoes. Seems like Adam has way too many specifications. I don't know if Zoo knows that much about him. And the other thing is I feel like Adam would feel guilty and try to wear these shoes around. I don't need to run into my man in some size 14s he's flopping around in.
I'm wearing the shoes. You could swim in them. You could scuba.
We go to take a halftime picture. Adam falls down the stairs from the 112 section all the way to the floor in oversized shoes. I don't want to see that. I don't want that for my man.
All right.
It's Star Wars night and I died falling down the stairs.
I mean, there are worse ways to go. Well, happy birthday to you guys. Thank you for being great co-hosts, by the way. I think that about wraps it up. I have to go to a meeting in 2 minutes. Next week, we are going to have Carl Tart on the episode. We know he has some thoughts about how the Clippers season went. Adam just rolled his eyes. He's getting battle ready to talk about Zubats, I'm sure.
I don't know when we're recording that episode, but for some reason I won't be able to be there.
I'm very busy. I have a shoe fitting I need to get to whenever we're recording. You can find us. Will, where can they find us? Spotify? Where I don't know any apps.
Yeah, you can check us out on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. Please review us there if you haven't already. We'll definitely read it aloud on the show. It's the off season. Give us some content. Come on, man. You can listen to us on either one of those platforms. You can also listen to us on Stitcher. We're on Deezer. We're on Google Podcasts. We're on Amazon Music. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can listen to the show. Check us out on YouTube. That's at Clippers Podcast. And chop it up with us anytime over on Twitter. That's at Clippers Pod. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much for listening. We're going to bring you content again once a week in the offseason. Going to ramp up in case anything crazy happens. Thank you to everyone who's listened. Thanks to shout out to WGA also. We hope that can get all figured out soon. And as always, go Clippers.